Hey, Lois.
Hi, Rabbi.
How are you?
Liz is here. I'm well. Liz
Nice,
is here. David's here.
nice,
We're all
nice.
gathering. Right.
Hail, hail, the gang's all here.
And what the hell do we care?
What the heck do we care? What the heck do we care?
He cleaned it up. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Although when I was listening to his travel thing with Rabbi Becker,
Oh,
they
there's
didn't clean that up.
oh, really? There's a
What?
note.
What happened?
She said that it was a little, what? On
Got a
the,
little raunchy with the two of you.
What? What do you
your
mean?
travel one. Really?
What was
Not that kind of raunchy, just there were no bad words. Okay.
But what specifically were we talking
don't know.
about?
Now you expect me to remember?
So he was talking about his trips,
Right.
I don't know.
and was it a specific? Do you remember? Was it a?
It
He
was one
went.
of the places he was.
He was in Croatia. He was in Spain. He was in Tunisia, and he was in Jerba.
Maybe it was
Jerba.
Tunisia.
Who's this guy?
Rabbi Becker.
Rabbi Becker.
Mordechai Becher.
They had a discussion on travel with the last.
Why, he couldn't hold a job?
Exactly, David. He couldn't hold the job. What are you talking about? He was on a trip,
Oh, is it real?
and I don't exactly remember what he said, but it made me laugh.
Well, we'll listen to it and see what you meant. We'll be listening for it.
Okay.
Diana. What does that have to do? Would you like some apple cider?
Don't pour me anymore.
Means enough.
Diana.
Oh,
Die means enough, right? But Diana was enough for us. It would have been enough for us.
stop.
Yeah.
Right.
Enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Die. Yeah. Enough.
I know the first few times I heard Moshe yelling at the kids, I was like, what the? What are you
Oh, die. Oh, I see.
Well,
Then I caught on.
are we muted?
No.
No, you're not.
Okay.
No. Just trying to find that.
Well, I'm just trying to, figure out. At the end, we were saying that you could get 2 punishments for violating 1 commandment.
But he still didn't want to count it as 2 separate command. He didn't want to count it as one of the countable mitzvos. Because that can happen sometimes, that you have several opportunities to transgress. Like, for instance, the 39 categories of malacha on Shabbos, where we don't say that each one is a separate mitzvah, but you still could be liable for more than 1 count of if you transgress. So it's like that. Like if you you'd be liable for more than 1 transgression, but it wouldn't be counted as another one of the negative commandments. Like I'm sure that if we really spent a lot of time on it, we'd start to understand the subtle distinctions, but there ends up being times when he counts what appear to be different parts of one whole. He counts them each as separate commandments. And there's other times where it appears that they are separate commandments, but he considers them part of one whole. And he has his rules for that. And but although I know such rules exist, I don't understand the subtle applications of them. So that's what had happened. You're liable for more than 1 prohibition, but he's only counting it as 1 negative commandment.
And you get both punishments.
You get double. You get malchus, I guess, twice. So here we go. He prohibited being involved with a loan with interest between a borrower and a lender. So you're one of the facilitators of the loan. You're not borrowing, you're not lending. So not to be a guarantor for one of them, not to be a witness for one of them, not to write a contract about what they agreed upon about the interest. And that is his saying, you shall not lay upon him interest. The language of the Gemara in Bava Metzia is the guarantor and witnesses only transgress on account of you shall not lay. And there it is explained that the scribe, the witness, and guarantor also transgress. And there it is also explained that the negative statement, which is you shall not lay, even with its coming about the middlemen, meaning those tangentially involved in the matter, it does also include the lender, and therefore the lender transgresses 6 negative commandments. The first is do not be to him a creditor. The second is your money you shall not give him with interest. The third is, and on increase you shall not give your food. The fourth is do not take from him. The fifth is you shall not lay upon him. And the sixth is you shall not put a stumbling block in front of the blind. And there they said, these transgress a negative commandment. The lender, the borrower, the guarantor, and the witnesses. And the sages say, even the scribe, they transgress. You shall not give him. Do not take. Do not be to him as a creditor. You shall not lay, and you shall not put in front of the blind. And the Gemara, Abai says, the lender transgresses them all. The borrower transgresses. You shall not charge interest, and you shall not put a stumbling block in front of the blind. The guarantor and the witness only transgress on account of you shall not lay. So
What about the sulfur?
Yeah, or the sofer. They had, I don't know why he's not including him in this particular line, but he said the sofer above. He said the sofer twice. Yeah.
Why did he say the sulfur? The sulfur has no idea what's going on. He's a
Yes,
strong.
He
He's
knows
writing
exactly
it.
what's going on because
He's
he's writing
writing
it. He knows what he's writing.
How can he not know?
He's being
what's going
told he's being told to write up the contract with the interest in it. So
Oh, with the interest in it.
Well, what do you think
Right.
he's writing?
yeah, he's writing a contract that has the interest in it. So he knows. You
So-
were thinking maybe he's just writing a regular loan document and they've
Yeah, yeah.
somehow contracted. But here it means that he's actually
Oh,
writing the interest
But-
into the document.
But doesn't that make it an invalid document?
No, I don't, we have seen here that the loan is considered a legal loan, even though you have violated. You certainly have to pay back the loan. Yeah, how do we how do we know
Good
that?
question.
Yeah, how do you know that? I mean, it's for sure true, but I don't know how we know it's true. Let's see. If
What are we trying to figure out?
a lender
If the interest is a legal document, I mean,
lends
Does he have
money
to stack?
yeah,
with interest, even if we say you are not allowed to pay interest,
And he's putting a violation of Torah law into the contract.
right? So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
saying why so if a lender lends money with interest, even if we say you're not allowed to pay interest according to Torah law, is
possible
the contract is the
what it is. It's impossible to put it,
does he
but if he did.
Yeah.
It's
No,
very-
this is like, we've had this before. Like if somebody sells something, let's say you sell something and you've overcharged, So there's a certain level of overcharging that is considered a violation, but the sale still stands. There's a certain kind where the sale is considered nullified. So also, let's say, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but let's say a Kohen marries a divorcee. So even though it's a violation of the Torah for them to get married, it is a legal marriage. They are legally married.
Yeah.
So the question is, it just seems that it must be that they has to pay back the loan. I'm just assuming that to pay back the loan.
Wow, what a way to, let's say,
But,
the guy writes out the thing, and then he gets the money, he gets the loan, then he says, well, I don't have to pay you back because this is
but
a
the money-
totally illegal document.
But the scribe doesn't write it until the money's been exchanged. Or no, he writes it before. the money's
Yeah,
been exchanged.
usually, a contract is written before, you both
Yeah.
have to sign it or something.
Yes.
Right, you have to agree to it.
Right.
Yeah,
before-
so, but
before
there's no
it
repaying of
exchanges.
the loan because the loan hasn't been made.
You
Right,
mean while
right.
he's
I see
right,
what he's
before
saying.
he write,
The
he
contract
writes
has
it,
to be signed and in place before the money exchanges hands.
Yeah. right, okay, but I'm just saying, let's
So
say
there's
you
no-
write it, then you exchange the money, and then the guy says, I don't have to pay it back because it's an illegal document.
Something like that.
Should the rabbi straighten that?
Yeah. So it takes for granted again. Where does it specifically say? It says here you have to pay it back, but it doesn't. Where does it specifically say he must repay the loan?
Doesn't.
I guess it's illegal.
The application for a borrower to pay loans is rooted in several Torah principles codified in Jewish law. The Torah and ensuing halacha take for granted the loans are to be repaid, while the Torah doesn't state. But if contract stipulated
Ribbis.
must pay interest, isn't the contract in violation of Torah?
What's the word that I'm
Law.
forgetting now? You charge exorbitant.
That's overcharge. Usury, yeah, that's it. Usury, a violation of Torah law, and if so, why is it binding for the known? It could be that the thing here is that it's not because of the contract you owe the money. You owe the money because you borrowed money.
Yeah. And the contract just proves to the court or whatever
But
that
if
you.
the contract says
Oh.
interest, you also own the owe the interest.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's just see. I'm going to see if I'm not sure what this is going to help or not. When a loan contract stipulates payment of interest, this aspect of the contract is indeed in violation of Torah law, which forbids charging or paying interest between Jews. However, this does not invalidate the entire loan agreement with regard to repayment of the principal. Why is the loan principal still binding despite the interest clause violating Torah law? Separation of prohibited interest and valid principal. Torah law clearly distinguishes between the principal, the original sum lent, and the interest, the additional amount charged for lending. The prohibition specifically targets the interest portion, not the repayment of the principal loaned. validity of principal payment. Even if interest is stipulated in the contract, the obligation to repay the loan principal remains fully binding. Torah and halachic authorities emphasize that the borrower must repay the original loan regardless of added legal interest. No citations. Jewish courts will not enforce the payment or collection of interest. The contract clause about interest is considered void and non-binding, but the contract's principal loan terms are still valid, must be followed by returning the original money borrowed.
Original.
The loan agreement is effectively split into two parts: the principal repayment obligation, which is binding and enforced, the interest portion, which is forbidden and non-enforceable. If interest was paid, halachic authorities debate whether it must be returned, but the key point remains that charging and paying interest is unacceptable.
Thank you.
Except, again, it doesn't cite.
A source.
Right. It's
Well,
halachic perspective, but the approach balances. Right. Usually they have an article that they cite as their source for this. So it all sounds like this answer should be the answer, but I don't know what to do when they don't cite sources. But I'm thinking, going back to that original thing again, that what makes you obliged to repay a loan is simply that you borrowed the money, contract or no contract. The only purpose of the contract is in case of, some problem, we can go back to what the details of the loan were, etc. But the fact that you borrowed money, that's what makes you obliged to repay it. So here, if it says that there was a loan and it has witnesses and everything, what would happen if the guy denies there's a loan? That's the only time that this
or
would
the
matter.
amount. Or the
Right.
amount.
So let's say he denies there ever was a loan. Now I have this document and I have witnesses signed on the document that there was a loan and that interest is charged. So the question is, can I split them? Can I say that there's a document, this document records that there was a loan that is considered a legally binding arrangement from the Torah. And so as far as that goes, we're going to believe it. As far as the interest goes, we're going to say you can't do that because you can't, even if you agreed to do interest, the two of you, it's still a violation of the Torah. But then the problem is, why should I believe these? Why should I trust the witnesses for the other side if the witnesses themselves are violating the Torah by being part of a loan that had interest? So how are they trusted with the original loan?
Right.
Right. Yeah. So that's that. I'm sure this is a Gemara. This has to be a Gemara somewhere, but all right, whatever. That's the back of the envelope.
Yeah.
That's
what's ironic in a way? That there's so much devoted to this and it's so intricate, so many violations. And yet Jews with non-Jews, a lot of them made their money through interest.
Not only that, we're going to see from the Rambam, or the Rambam already said it I think in the Positive Commandments. He said you must charge interest to Gentiles. You can't lend them without interest. And that's because there's a prohibition of not doing favors for Gentiles. Now, we learn that prohibition
That's terrible.
applies to idolaters for much of it, but the Rambam did say that it's forbidden to lend money to Gentiles without charging interest. So if you wanted to get out of this problem, you just can't be in the loan business. Yeah.
All the banks. But this isn't only money for any kind of favor to a Gentile.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, but again, we learn that it specifically refers to idolaters. It would not refer to, for instance, people keeping Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach.
Okay.
So I wonder, we didn't, it might have come up when we were doing it last time. If the Rambam holds that you're not allowed to lend even to a ben Noach, or does that only apply to an idolater? One second.
Does this have much practical application?
Wait, but you
Yeah,
can't
because you
loan,
can't do any favor
loan
for a Gentile. If
to
it,
idolater even with interest, or you can.
Yeah, but
no, an idolater you can lend with interest. The question
Oh,
is, can you
yeah, yeah.
lend to a Gentile who is not an idolater?
Not
Let's say
idolater.
they keep the Noahide laws. Are
Right.
you allowed to lend to them without interest?
Interest, right.
So there are some people who just learned that this law of lo tichonem, that you're not allowed to show favor, applies to all Gentiles. That, which means that you just, there has to be some kind of interest for you. Not, I'm not talking about interest as in ribis. I mean, just you have to have some kind of financial interest. So let's say I do a favor for somebody, but this person is in a position to then do favors for me, then it's not considered a altruistic favor. It's just considered a kind of doing business. And if I can show that somehow it could help my bottom line, then this is not called doing a favor, because doing a favor means it's unearned. It's like what we would call grace. You're doing it just because you like the person. So
Why would that be the case? Does it somehow diminish the Jewish people if they do favors without a return?
well, because I think originally it was mentioned, it's actually in last week's Torah portion, the prohibition, and it was mentioned with the 7 nations. It didn't want us to become friendly with them. It just doesn't want us to become friends with them. So then it says it specifically with regard to the 7 nations. Then when you look at it in the Gemara and in the commentaries, it's mostly like Tosfos and others who seem to extend it to idolaters. It applies to idolaters. The question is, does it apply to people that aren't idolaters? So, so that prohibition of doing them favors. So I think a lot of people agree that if it's a Noahide, you are allowed to do them favors. But if they're not a Noahide, so for instance, let's say, like we've had this discussion before about Christians, are Christians considered to be idolaters? So the Rambam holds they are idolaters, and the Meiri holds they are not idolaters. Let's say you hold they are idolaters, then this would apply to any Christian. Also, it could apply to people from India if they're not Muslim. They may have the category of an idolater. And so this is, I've mentioned this to you before, I think, but I was once at Jiffy Lube, and I needed a headlight replaced, and so they're looking it over, and then the guy comes back in, and he tells me it ended up being a loose wire. They didn't need to replace the headlight. And so I told him how impressed I was, because he could have easily just, told me he just replaced the headlight. He didn't have to tell me he figured out that I don't need it replaced. And and I even asked him to bring in the guy who found it so I could thank both of them together. So afterwards, I
What's wrong with that?
The question, so
Valid.
the problem, so the thing is, the problem, so the thing is, I praised them, I thanked them for what they had done. And you're not allowed, so the rule is you're not allowed to praise. Lo Sichanem has 3 or 4 different prohibitions attached to it. One is you can't do a favor for them. There's another one that you can't praise them. So whenever I've heard this brought up in a course of a
About
halachic
tipping them.
conversation,
Yeah.
so they always say you can't compliment them, but but in my research, I found that that's a mistake. It can't be that you can't compliment them. You can the praising thing is talking about praising them to another Jew. You can't praise an idolater to another Jew, but complimenting them, uh, there's no place that says that you can't compliment them. And I asked Ramosha Soloveitchik, Rabbi First, and Rabbi Reese, and all 3 told me that you for sure can compliment the person. Rabbi Soloveitchik said you can compliment them because it's still part of a transaction. You're in the midst of a transaction, and you're allowed to transact business with them. That's not called just an out of just a plain compliment. It's part of a business transaction. So to him, it was clear that you could do it. And to Rabbi First, he just said you're allowed to be nice. This is the same thing we were talking about with interest. With interest, yeah, you're that like with interest. You're not supposed to add something when you repay. So, but what if you compliment the person and say thank you? So is that called repaying with something extra? And that should perhaps be rabbinically forbidden. So many of the commentaries say no. You're allowed to be nice. You're just being a mensch. You're just being pleasant. So you're allowed to be
However,
pleasant to people.
You're walking down the street and an Indian woman comes to her and you can't say beautiful sari you're wearing.
No, you could. Yeah. So then that's right. According to this, you wouldn't be able to say that. Well, I don't know if you'd be able to say, you could. Oh yeah, you look nice in that sari or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. But then there's just that who was it? It might have been Rabbi Reese who said, when you never know, like this business about how if it's transactional, it's okay. Since if this is somebody that there's ever a chance you're going to bump into them again, then in your relationship with them, being kind to them in the end is potentially good for your bottom line, whatever it might be down the road. And so they wanted to say, even in that, it seems like even in that case that you're mentioning, it would be permitted to do it. Bottom line is, whenever you hear this subject brought up, I even recently saw it brought up in a class by Rabbi Rosner. They always say the word, you cannot compliment a Gentile. And that is not how the prohibition is stated. The prohibition is stated you can't praise, let's say it's an idolater. So let's say Christianity is idolatry. Then if you have somebody like Kurt Warner or Tim Tebow who are known, people who take their Christianity seriously. So if it is an idolatry, you wouldn't be able to tell your friend that this person was a great quarterback. According to this, you cannot praise him. So if you can't tell him about a great play he made or have a any kind of praise, because I guess the concern there is that if the person starts to think that an idolater is gifted or good, then it breaks down the barrier between us and idolaters. Perhaps that it's a biblical prohibition. It's not a rabbinic prohibition.
So the rationale might be that an idolater diminishes God. In complimenting an idolater, in some way, Hashem is being diminished and praised.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. But then again, the question would be if it's a Noahide
related.
So a lot of these things we would say do not apply. But what would the Rambam say? Because the Rambam had it in his as a mitzvah. The Rambam said you cannot lend to a Gentile without interest. He had said that before. Okay. He prohibited us not to oppress the employee and not to delay his wage with us. And that is his saying, there shall not abide with you the wages of the worker. And that is that if he was a day worker, he collects the whole night from his saying until morning. And if he was a night worker, behold, the time of his payment is the whole night and the whole day. And the sun may not set before one pays him. And that is his saying, you must pay him his wage on the same day. The language of the Mishnah is a day worker is to collect his wage during any of the night, and a night worker is to collect during any of the day. These are not two commandments, rather it is one commandment, but two negative statements have appeared about it in order to fill out the law of the commandments. So see here's another case where there's two statements, but he's saying that this time it's only one negative commandment, even though there's two statements. But here, the two statements are understood to add to each other. They fill out the commandment. And that is that with these two negative statements, we know when is the time of payment for a night worker and then for a day worker. And the regulations of this commandment have already been explained in the 9th chapter of Bava Metzia. And so at the same kind of halacha summits that covered this issue about praising idolaters, so they also talk about this, and that when it talks about a worker, like this would include people that are coming to do work for you, like a cleaning person or an Uber, or obviously an Uber, it's set up that it automatically pays. But
Right.
let's say somebody else who you arranged with to do something for you, to take you to the airport or something. Those people are in this category and they need to be paid right away. And this is something I am weak about because I've had people that come and do things and sometimes they have to ask me if to pay them because I forget to pay them, because they're not around or whatever, and I'm supposed to Zelle them the payment. So this is that you have to. This is a biblical commandment. It's a negative commandment to withhold their wage, and withholding their wage means like the next half a day, basically. He prohibited us from taking collateral from a borrower into our hands, except by the order of the judge and through his messenger, and that we not come ourselves into the debtor's house and take something as collateral. And that is his saying, you must not enter his house to seize his pledge. The language of the Mishnah is, one who lends money to another may take collateral only by means of the court, may not enter the house to take collateral, as it is stated, you shall stand outside. It is a negative commandment that is rectified by a positive commandment, and that is his saying, you must surely return the pledge to him. And so, as it is explained at the end of Tractate Makos, and know that if he does not return it and does not fulfill the positive commandment in it, he is liable for lashes and pays money of the collateral, as it is explained in the end of Makot. The regulations of this commandment have already been explained in the 9th chapter of Bava Metzia. So the reason that a person wouldn't get lashes for this is because you can rectify it. But if for some reason you cannot rectify it, then you would get lashes. So we don't just say that since this is a negative commandment that has a positive commandment associated with it, so this type of negative commandment doesn't have lashes. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying that since you could fix it, we're going to just tell you to fix it and not give you lashes. But if for some reason you're not fixing it, you can't fix it, then the person would get lashes for this. So, yeah, so this would be like going to the, nowadays here, you'd go to, I guess, you go to the court and then a sheriff is the one who goes, I think. But those sheriff, you don't go directly to a sheriff, right? I don't think nowadays you would directly go to a sheriff if you wanted something seized from somebody else. I think you still need to go to a court, right? Actually, don't know.
Can you hear me?
No,
Probably go
now
to
I
court.
can. Now I can. Yeah.
Okay, so how does it work generally? Like, some loans have a collateral or collateralized, some aren't. If it's collateralized, I mean, who's supposed, the other guy can't, the only way he can do it is, or I guess the other guy could bring it out to him, his pledge. But, okay.
Right. Or, yeah. Yeah. So that's how you'd have to do it. He'd have to hand it over to you.
But what if he hasn't handed it over to you? And
Then the
been,
court, then you have to go to court and they have to send somebody to
they'll
get
see
it. Right. It would be a messenger. The court would have to get it for you. Okay. All right. I am grateful that we got to do this together. I look forward to learning again with you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
See you
Well,
later.
all right.
Yeah, tonight.
Okay. All right. See you tonight. Bye-bye.